Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every soul's journey when it must confront not only the shadows within, but also the shadows cast upon it by others. There are those who do not seek wholeness, but power. Not truth, but control. These individuals often cloak themselves in charm, in seeming vulnerability, in magnetism that masks manipulation, and among them stands the narcissist. A narcissist does not want a relationship, they want a mirror. But what happens when that mirror no longer reflects their illusion? What happens when you grow too strong, too self-aware to be controlled? The narcissist builds their inner world like a fragile throne, carefully crafted, but dangerously hollow. It stands tall only when supported by constant admiration, submission, and emotional compliance from others. Their entire sense of identity is not rooted in self-awareness or inner truth, but in the reactions they can extract from the people around them. They do not truly know who they are. They only know how they want to be seen, and so every relationship becomes a transaction. Every interaction becomes a performance. The people in their life are not regarded as sovereign individuals with thoughts and emotions of their own, but as extensions, props in the theater of their own self-deception. When someone enters their world and appears useful, whether through beauty, talent, compassion, or vulnerability, they are idealized. For a time, the narcissist plays the role of an attentive lover, a loyal friend, or a generous ally. But it is not love, it is possession. The moment the other begins to assert independence, to express boundaries, to question the narrative, it triggers a deep and unconscious panic. Because to the narcissist, your strength is not neutral. It is a threat. It suggests that you are not a reflection of them, but something separate, something they cannot fully control or predict, and this shakes the very foundation of the fragile throne they sit upon. To see another person stand in their own truth reminds the narcissist on a level they cannot articulate, that they themselves are hollow. It stirs the awareness they've spent a lifetime repressing, that their confidence is only a mask, their certainty only a costume. Your strength does not just make you difficult, it makes them irrelevant, and nothing terrifies them more than irrelevance. So they begin to shift, often subtly at first. Where they once praised you, they now mock. Where they once admired your autonomy, they now accuse you of being selfish, distant, or disloyal. They sow doubt, chip away at your sense of stability, and project their own insecurities onto you. This isn't random cruelty, it's a defense mechanism. The narcissist cannot tolerate your strength because it reveals their weakness. The more grounded and whole you become, the more you threaten the structure they've built to protect themselves from their own self-loathing. If they cannot dominate your reality, they begin to dismantle it, and they will do this not always through rage or overt control, but often through quiet sabotage, backhanded compliments, subtle withdrawal of affection, confusion wrapped in concern. They will frame their manipulation as love, their criticism as care, their jealousy as loyalty. And if you question it, they will say you are too sensitive, too suspicious, too damaged by your past. It is in these moments, when your intuition screams but the surface appears calm, that the throne begins to crack. The narcissist senses your awakening, they feel your strength rising, and rather than face it with humility, they prepare for war. Not always loud, not always explosive, but psychological, insidious, and corrosive. You begin to realize that every expression of independence is punished, and every moment of clarity is followed by distortion. They cannot allow you to see clearly, because clarity is power, and power that does not serve them is unacceptable. So their efforts escalate, often in ways so subtle you second-guess your own mind. You find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, explaining things that don't need explanation, trying to earn back approval you didn't truly lose. This is not love, it is erosion. And yet the more you resist, the more desperate their strategies become, because by standing firm, you expose the reality they cannot face. You remind them simply by being whole that their throne is made of sand, and that it cannot stand much longer. When the narcissist senses that their usual methods no longer work, that the guilt no longer lands, that the charm no longer disarms, and that the gaslighting fails to confuse. They begin to panic beneath the surface, not in a way that resembles visible fear, but in the deeper psychic sense, a collapse of control, a loss of narrative. Control is not a preference for them, it is survival. Your resistance signals that their emotional dominance is slipping, that the role they cast you in the compliant, admiring, emotionally available mirror is no longer being played. At this point, the narcissist must resort to something more dramatic, more damaging, more definitive. This is when they reach for their final trick, the most desperate tactic in their psychological arsenal, the inversion of reality, a calculated reversal where the abuser plays the victim and the victim is made to appear as the villain. This move is not accidental. It is deeply intentional, though not always fully conscious. It arises from the narcissist's primal need to protect the mask they wear, the persona they've shown to the world, the curated image of who they want to be seen as. When your strength threatens that mask, when your emotional autonomy exposes their lack of depth or empathy, they don't look inward. They look outward. They begin to rewrite the story in real time, not only in their own mind, but in the minds of those around you. This is when the smear campaign begins. Quietly, subtly, but effectively, they start planting seeds of doubt in others. They tell half-truths, emotionally charged distortions, or blatant lies, all designed to provoke suspicion about you. They will say you've changed, that you've become cold or untrustworthy, that they tried everything and were only ever loving. But you push them away. Their goal is not reconciliation. Their goal is perception. If they cannot control your reality anymore, they will control the perception of you in the eyes of others. And it often works because the narcissist has spent months, sometimes years, curating an identity that seems charming, kind, wounded, or generous to those who only know the surface. They will lean into that identity during this phase, portraying themselves as confused and heartbroken, as someone who loved too deeply and was betrayed. Meanwhile, you are left confused, outraged, and isolated, because the people you thought knew you begin to question your side of the story. You feel the sudden chill of doubt in conversations, the polite distance in friendships, the questions that carry unspoken accusations. And worse still, if you react, if you defend yourself emotionally or attempt to expose what truly happened, they will point to that very reaction as proof that you are unstable, aggressive, or toxic. This is the genius of the final trick. It forces you into a corner where any effort to reclaim your narrative can be used against you. If you stay silent, they own the story. If you speak out, you're proving their point. It's a trap designed to break your spirit, to strip you of support, to force you into isolation where you might begin to question your own reality. And the narcissist watches from a distance, often with apparent sadness or confusion, never seeming to gloat, because the performance must continue. They are not interested in healing, reconciliation, or understanding. They are interested in control of perception. Their goal is to ensure that even if they can't be the center of your world anymore, they remain the center of everyone else's understanding of you. The deepest cruelty of this final move is that it is done not to reclaim connection, but to destroy your credibility. The narcissist understands that if you are seen as irrational, bitter, or unstable, then your version of events will be dismissed before it's even heard. They attack your integrity because they know it's the foundation of your strength. By undermining your reputation, they seek to weaken you without ever having to confront their own behavior. It is psychological warfare disguised as heartbreak, manipulation dressed up as misfortune, and all of it constructed to ensure they remain untouched, unexposed, and most importantly, unquestioned. To fully grasp the desperation behind a narcissist's final manipulation, one must look beneath surface behavior and into the deeper architecture of their inner world. What drives the narcissist is not simply a desire to control others. It is a defense against an unbearable inner void. This void is not easily visible, even to themselves. It is buried under layers of denial, fantasy, and projected illusions. At the heart of their personality is not confidence, but fragility, not power, but terror. The narcissist is not self-assured. They are terrified of self-confrontation. They cannot bear to look directly at their own insufficiency, so they build an identity around what they want to be rather than what they truly are. And every person they encounter becomes a mirror through which they try to confirm that illusion, but when someone close to them begins to reflect something different, when you start showing strength, clarity, boundaries, and emotional independence, it threatens the fragile scaffolding of their false self. Your growth, your resistance, your refusal to play along are not just inconvenient to them, they are existential threats. Your strength shines a light on their lack of it. Your boundaries highlight their invasiveness. Your emotional self-sufficiency exposes their dependence on external validation. And this is where the panic begins, because it is not simply a loss of control they fear. It is a collapse of their very identity. When a narcissist feels you slipping out of their grip, it triggers a reaction akin to psychological death. They sense the shattering of the fantasy they've spent a lifetime constructing. And because they cannot face the truth of who they are, they must attack the person who is forcing that truth into view. This is why the narcissist resorts to the most insidious forms of manipulation in their final stages of engagement with you. It is not strategy in the conventional sense, it is self-preservation. You are not merely walking away, you are, in their mind, dismantling them. Your refusal to comply is interpreted not as an act of personal strength, but as a direct attack on their worth. Your detachment reads to them as betrayal. Your silence becomes violence in their eyes. They cannot see you as a person acting in your own best interest. They see you as a threat that must be neutralized. So they respond not with reflection, not with accountability, but with destruction. And what makes this particularly dangerous is that it is carried out under the guise of victimhood. They do not attack you openly, they cry. They do not confront you directly, they retreat and whisper. They do not ask for forgiveness, they demand sympathy. This psychological inversion is key to understanding the depth of their dysfunction. They are not simply lying to others about you, they are lying to themselves about themselves, and this self-deception is so complete that they often believe their own narratives. In their mind, they are the wounded one, the misunderstood one, the good soul who only loved too much. Any damage they cause is conveniently reinterpreted as a reaction to your cruelty, and so they avoid guilt by assigning it to you. They escape shame by projecting it outward. They cling to a sense of moral superiority, not because they are ethical, but because they cannot survive the implications of being wrong. The closer you get to leaving them behind, the more unhinged their reality becomes. But this is not because you are doing harm. It is because they can no longer maintain the illusion. Their entire world was built on the assumption that they could control your perception, bend your will, and define your identity. When that stops working, they do not reflect, they retaliate, and that retaliation is not always loud. Often, it is quiet, calculated, and deeply performative. They will collapse into tears, fabricate stories, or manipulate shared friends. But the motivation behind it all is the same: to defend the fantasy they live in, to avoid the terror of looking inward, to ensure that they never have to face what your strength has revealed about their weakness. When the narcissist launches their final assault through manipulation, projection, and distortion, the most dangerous temptation is the one that comes cloaked in justice. The desire to prove them wrong, to expose the truth, to force the world to see what you see. This temptation is natural, even noble in its origin, because what has happened is unjust. The lies they tell, the reality they twist, the harm they cause, all of it creates a storm of betrayal that seeks an outlet. But this is where the real test begins, not a test of how much you can fight, but how deeply you can stay rooted in truth without allowing their illusion to consume you. Because the narcissist does not fight in the realm of truth, they fight in the realm of perception, and the more you try to defend yourself within their reality, the more entangled you become in it. The battlefield is designed to drain you. The rules are written to make you lose. The moment you start explaining yourself to someone who has already decided to misunderstand you, you have already given up something sacred. Your peace. This is why the most powerful response is not counterattack but detachment, not revenge but clarity, not public vindication but internal alignment. The narcissist thrives on your engagement, even if it is in protest. They want your energy, your outrage, your pain, because it feeds their sense of importance. Your silence, on the other hand, terrifies them, not because it is weak, but because it shows you no longer need to play. It communicates, without words, that you are not a character in their story anymore. You are the author of your own. Radical integrity becomes your defense. Not performative goodness, not forced calmness, but the unshakable consistency of living in alignment with what you know to be real. When you no longer need to prove the truth because you are the embodiment of it, their chaos begins to lose its power. Their words may continue, their stories may spread, but none of it sticks to you anymore because you are no longer available to absorb it. This does not mean you remain passive. Boundaries must be drawn. Lies may need to be gently but firmly corrected. But these actions come not from fear or reaction, but from sovereignty. You act because it is true to who you are, not because you need a specific outcome. You are no longer trying to win a war of perception. You are living a life that speaks for itself, and in that space, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see the narcissist not as a powerful enemy, but as a deeply wounded person trapped in their own nightmare. You stop needing them to admit what they did. You stop waiting for the apology that will never come. You stop hoping for understanding from people who only knew the mask, and instead, you begin to reclaim all the parts of yourself that were lost in the fight. Your voice, your intuition, your self-trust, your joy. You realize that healing is not about returning to who you were before them. It is about becoming someone stronger, clearer, and more sovereign than you ever were. The pain they caused is not a reflection of your weakness. It is the result of your light disturbing their illusion. They came for your power because they sensed it before you did. And in the end, the gift they unwillingly gave you is that now you see it too. Now you know what you are capable of withstanding. Now you know how deeply your truth runs. And most importantly, now you know that your peace is not something anyone else can give or take. There is no final victory to be won over the narcissist. There is only the quiet, steady return to your own center. The decision to stop performing. The willingness to let go of being understood. The courage to live in alignment even when lies surround you. And once you arrive there, something shifts. Their name loses power, their story loses weight, and what remains is not just survival but transformation. So I say this, if you have become strong enough to be targeted, you have also become strong enough to transcend it. You are not here to play a role in someone else's illusion. You are here to awaken, and no matter how many masks are thrown at your feet, never forget, you are not what they say you are. You are what you know yourself to be. Hold to that, walk on, and let the shadows fall behind you. Thank you.